I'm talking about it because I feel like discussions surrounding non-binary dysphoria don't really happen, and therefore there's not a lot of support or advice on that issue for that community. And I would like to change that. So hello, I am starting the discussion. It's been started.
The reason that I wanted to join on this conversation isn't because I feel like I'm some special well of knowledge, but because Hardell asked for advice specifically from the non-binary community, and more specifically from people who have or currently experience dysphoria, of which I fall into that category. Part of me is kind of concerned about making this video because I know that both Wylde and Hardell have a lot of people who follow them but are transphobic, which really confuses me. Like, people putting a lot of investment into things that they dislike or hate or disagree with. I just feel like surely you have more positive things to do with your life. I kind of feel like some of that hate might follow me over onto this video and by extension my channel. But that's the very thing, right? Is that if that kind of rhetoric stops people from making videos and stops people from having conversations, then hate wins, and that's not what I'm about. So I am going to engage in this conversation.
Now, this is an interesting topic because the first time that I really understood that dysphoria was a part of my life was around a year ago when I came up with the gender tag project. While I was researching for the project, I came across this little paragraph of information on a website called nonbinary.org. Some non-binary people experience bodily dysphoria relating to certain primary or secondary sexual characteristics. The act of obscuring, removing, or replacing these sexual characteristics in order to reduce gender dysphoria may result in physical androgyny without the individual having set out to specifically obtain an androgynous presentation. It was this paragraph of information that helped me get a more clear understanding of what dysphoria actually means for an individual.
Both Hardell and Wylde kind of touched upon this. Dysphoria can be divided into social and physical or personal. And Wylde kind of mentioned having an aha moment, realizing that she experienced dysphoria. And I definitely had that as well.
I can't tell you why, I just know I'm not meant to have giant boobs.
Hardell speaks about having this knowledge that her chest is meant to be smaller or flatter than it is, and just knowing that to be true and not really being able to explain that. And that was absolutely my experience my whole life. Well, obviously not when I was really small, then I had no chest. But you know, after I developed breasts, I just always knew they weren't meant to be there, and part of me thought, oh, you know, you're just getting used to them, wait a bit, and after like 10, 12, 14 years, I was like, I feel like I've waited long enough, and I just still know that they're not meant to be a part of me. They just don't feel like mine, they don't feel like they're meant to exist on my body. And I still didn't really call that dysphoria because I always associated dysphoria with this specific hatred for this body part. Like, I hate this, and I was just like, I don't hate them, I just know they're not meant to be there. I just know that this isn't right. And I've had top surgery and now I'm a lot happier. Obviously, I was less in the public eye before having surgery. I mean, not at all, really. So I understand that Hardell's in a unique situation. So it seems to me that Hardell's main difficulty is pulling apart the social and the physical sides of dysphoria. That's completely legitimate, and for a lot of binary trans people, social dysphoria means for them not being seen as their gender. And for non-binary people, I think it's really different because overwhelmingly, when I'm not seen as a woman, I'm seen as a man. Most people in this world don't look at someone and think, oh, I don't know what their gender is, they must be non-binary. People don't assume that. So, you know, I don't feel like I'm particularly male looking. I mean, I've got short hair and I've had top surgery, but I mean, I've had entire conversations with people. I also don't think that my voice is particularly masculine, and they'll still he, him, his me. Although interestingly, I've been in San Francisco for a month and I've been mammed and missed and ladied more in the last month than I was the entire year before. Being mammed for me is cool because it means that people here don't have really limited ideas of gender. When I get he and himmed and sirred, what that tells me is this person has such a flat two-dimensional image of what gender is that they just see short hair and a flat chest. Well, not even that, because I got he himmed way before top surgery. They just see short hair and they go male. They see long hair and they go female. And so the fact that I get mammed in San Francisco makes me realize, like, hey, they see butch women as well. Like, their idea of gender is a bit broader than other people's. Having said that, like, a little part of me is not super stoked that people assume other people's gender when they don't know. My only advice I could think of is, surround yourself with queer and queer-friendly people, trans people, and positive depictions of trans and non-binary people, and it's really hard to come by. I wrote a research project in 2014 about transgender representation in the media, and the most overwhelming thing I found was that trans people in film and media are victims so often, and it's so easy to see that and to reflect it in your own life. And especially with the current circumstances, my goal is to amplify tolerance, to focus on the things that we have in common, like love and compassion and human dignity. I'm not saying that you're fat-bodied. I don't really have an opinion on people's bodies in this way, but if that's something you're concerned about, then I reckon go to Tumblr and follow fat positivity blogs, people like plus size people looking hella sexy in lingerie, or like queer people who are larger. There's so many good resources, and I find that if you see representations of body types that people generally seem to view negatively, if you see them in positive light, often enough, frequently enough, it can change the way that you view them, and then in effect, if you feel like you have something in common with them, the way you view yourself. Like, the reason that a lot of trans people have so much self-hatred is because they don't see trans people represented in a positive light. They're either being killed in movies or killing people in movies. I truly believe that media is incredibly powerful. I would not hesitate for a moment to say that media is what got our current president elected. Hands down, absolutely. We don't have to be slaves to mass media. We don't have to submit to what the television or the radio is giving us, because we have so many other options. I bought Archer magazine recently, which had a non-binary edition. There's so many zines online. I follow trans blogs, just places that people post their surgery results or their outfits that they think they look hella cute in. And just, seeing people be positive about their bodies that look like my body, seeing people who had top dysphoria and now they've had surgery being so happy and accepted, and people sharing stories about their positive experiences makes me feel better about myself. So yeah, some days I have to say, no YouTube, no Facebook. I'm specifically going to go on this one blog that I know just posts trans positive stories or body positive stories, and that'll be the media that I'll consume that day. And it takes a hell of a lot of self-control. Funnily enough, I have an app called Self-Control, which helps with this. Google it, it's great. You can choose what websites to block and for how long, and then you can lock yourself out of it. So I can lock myself out of Facebook for a whole day if I want to. Great for studying. Also great if media is getting a little bit overwhelming. Yeah, we as minority communities have the power now to expand our representation in little ways, but we can reach so many people over the internet. And for example, just me watching you talk about your dysphoria and your experiences makes me feel more included, feel like I'm in a community, feel more positive about my own life, and I get this desire to help in any way I can and to give my time and energy and effort to the cause. I hope that helped. Let's chat more. And a huge thanks to Ash Hardell for her how to edit text video. As a Ravenclaw, free education is my aesthetic. I don't understand why people are so invested in and threatened by what I do with my own body.